2019 with a BS in Ecosystem Science and Sustainability, and she's been an assistant horticulturist for the Chicago Botanic Garden and is currently the horticultural specialist at Greenwise Organic Lawn Care. And as you all know, the topic of her conversation is Hawaiian people and plants. So I'm just going to let you take it away, KaMele, and add anything to that you want, and go for it. And thank you so much. I'm just going to say that she's volunteering for this, so thank you so much for that.
Hi, guys. Yeah, so I'm KaMele. Welcome to my talk, Hawaiian Plants and People. I'm very honored to be the first person to talk in this series. So I'm a little bit of the guinea pig. So yeah, but she already said a lot about me. I'm from the Big Island. And when I was on the Big Island, I did a lot of conservation and restoration work. I was really into, well, growing up, I worked with my dad. He is a landscaper, and so I was always out and getting dirty. We were raised fishing and hunting and just really close to the land. And then I was really involved with the Kohala Center and the Kohala Watershed Partnership, which is a large nonprofit on Big Island that they do a lot of restoration and conservation work. And I was an intern with them for 3 years. And so we did in-field research, we did outreach and education, and that really just made me realize that I'm super passionate about that. And so I went to Colorado State with a major in ecosystem science and sustainability. While I was in Colorado, I had a really hard time doing restoration and conservation work. I didn't feel very tied to the land there. My soul wasn't there. And so I went a little more into agriculture and to horticulture because it was more readily available. And I just couldn't care as much for Colorado restoration versus my home in Hawaii. But I always get the question, why are you in Chicago? And it is a very valid question. The answer is I moved here to be with my boyfriend, who is pictured here. And yeah, I've had a really great time. I work for Chicago Botanic, and then now I'm at Greenwise Organic Lawn Care. I always like to mention how I'm a wrestler. So I wrestled for 8 years. I wrestled for Colorado State in college, and I'm a 2-time All-American. And I kind of just like to brag about that every chance I get. So I added that in here. But really, I'm Big Island grown. I miss it every day. And yeah, I'm here. My goal tonight is to share with you a little bit about my culture. And it's probably a culture that a lot of people don't think about and don't realize that it exists. And I am by no means an expert. But it's something I'm very passionate about, and my goal is to really just give you guys a little bit of information into my world and the world I grew up in. So the Hawaiian Islands is an archipelago. There are at least 130 islands, and so there are the 8 main islands that everybody can go and visit. And then there are the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands. And what those are right now, it's a refuge. And you can only go there if you're doing research. But what they are is the Hawaii Islands are made from a hot spot in the tectonic plate where lava comes out. And so as the tectonic plate moves, the hot spot does not move. And so as you go up in the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands, as you get farther and farther away from the hot spot, those are all just in varying amounts of eroded as it's moved. And they each have their own ecosystems and their own unique aspects of that. And yeah, so the Hawaiian people originally came from the Marquesas Islands, but there has been a lot of history in Hawaii, the plantations, colonizing. And so now many ethnicities call Hawaii home. and all of those ethnicities together is really a unique thing. It's being Hawaiian and being from Hawaii are two very different things. Being Hawaiian is by blood, but everybody has island pride there. And it's really a unique culture in itself, just being from that area with that mentality. And it's really exciting. The culture, the ancient Hawaiians had a unique culture, a unique set of beliefs. And as Hawaii's grown older and as different people have come, it's really molded. And it's just a very vibrant atmosphere that is there today. And I hope everybody gets a chance to visit at some point. The Kanaka Maoli are the people of Hawaii, and you can see my flag here. So the Grand Voyage, what we do know about their voyage there, everything is orally passed down in Hawaii. And because at some point in time, as with most indigenous cultures, it was not accepted to be Hawaiian. And so people really lost a lot of our culture because of that. And so stories and family histories have gotten lost throughout the years. But what we do know is that they followed the North Star, Hokulea, and they traveled in a double hull canoe. And so you can see at the bottom right that there's a single hull canoe, and those were small, much smaller, and used kind of just around the chain, like around your island to fish and whatnot. But double hull canoes are huge. And they have the two hulls, and then they have like a plank in the middle, like not a plank, like a deck in the middle. And so they would travel, and they always had a navigator or kapuna who was just a wise elder who had usually trained since childhood, learning to navigate the waters, to read the stars, to read the waves and the winds in order to travel safely. And it took about 3 months in order to get to Hawaii. Once they got there and they established themselves, they had a governing system. And so they were ruled by ali'i, who ruled over an ahupua'a. So ali'i are chiefs, and ahupua'a is a watershed, and that is how they distinguish like land boundaries per each chief. The Hawaiian people were very sustainable and very resourceful. I mean, they're in a rock in the middle of the ocean, right? And so they don't have shipping containers coming to them like we do now. And there are even people who talk about how it's possible that Hawaii, the ancient Hawaiians used to, like they used to be able to sustain more people than Hawaii can now, just because of how sustainable they were. Whereas now we rely on the shipping containers to bring us our food and our resources. And so in recent years, that's been a real big push, is going back to our roots and going back to the sustainable way of life. I also get, so this really bothers me actually, people, I'm like, hi, my name's KaMele. And then they're like, oh, where's that from? And I go, from Hawaii. And they're like, I didn't know Hawaii had a language. Or like they asked me if Hawaii has a language. And I'm like, yes, I just told you, like my name. But yes, they have their own language. They have their own myths. They have, we have some really cool stories. I have 3 today that I'm going to talk to you about. And yeah. So I'm going to go into a little bit of ecology here. So sorry for those of you that are ecologists. It's a little refresher. Hawaii is a little rock in the middle of the ocean. So how do things get there without people? And that's a good question. So there are 3 ways that plants can get there and become native. It's the 3 W's. So waves, wings, and wind. Either they float there, they are carried by birds, or they're swept up by the wind. And after they get there, they land, they establish, they reproduce, and they evolve. And the evolving is the important part, because that's what makes it a native, a new species. Hawaii has over 1,400 native species that have evolved there. and 90% of all of those species are endemic, meaning that they can only be found in the Hawaiian Islands. And it's just so cool because sometimes even it can only be found on a specific island, or sometimes it can even be found on a specific hill on a specific island, and it just never got out. Something super cool is that Hawaii, because these things have to come from so far away, these things evolve without their natural predators. So for instance, we have a mentalist mint. It lost its taste and its smell because it didn't need it there. Yeah, so just cool things. Hawaii has 3 kind of plants that I distinguish them by. We have those native plants, like I just mentioned. We have canoe plants, which came over with the original Polynesians. They were brought over. These are our crop plants. Usually each of these plants has a mo'olelo or a story that goes with it as to why it's important and how integrated it was into the Hawaiian culture. Then we have exotic plants. So exotic plants were brought by people. They are not always a problem, but especially with Hawaii circumstances in that we have a year-round growing season and we don't have all those natural predators, they can become invasive. And if you're driving along any highway in Hawaii, I guarantee like 80% of all of the plants you're looking at are probably invasive or at least exotic. Like what you're seeing around you when you're in Hawaii as a tourist, it's very, very rare that you're going to be seeing native plants. So ahupua'a and land division is like one of my favorite things to talk about. So if you know what a watershed is, it is where all of the water drains into the ocean. So you start at the mountains and it rains there and it goes down into lakes, it goes down to rivers, it goes out to the ocean. And so that's how they divided land in Hawaii. So this is my island, this is Big Island. And it was just so cool the way that they had set everything up. So at the back, you had the forests where they would harvest koa trees for their canoes, where it was a very sacred place. A lot of the time, only kupuna or like wise elders would go there to pray, to talk to the gods, to harvest bird feathers for their capes. And it was a very sacred place. As you go farther down, you'll hit cropland where they had their kalo or taro patches, where they grew their wala, their sweet potato, and then it got drier and drier as you got to the beach. And so you could have like upland wet taro patches, and then you could have dryland taro patches. Then you get to the beach and kind of people lived in that in-between area with somewhere between the crops and the beach. And then a lot of the time they would take a lava rock and they would pile it in the brackish water and they would harvest fish from there. So they would raise and capture and sustainably harvest their own fish from the shoreline. And I just think it's so awesome how they figured all of this out, how it just flows perfectly. And yeah, it makes me very excited. So you cannot talk about Hawaiian plants without first talking about kalo. So kalo, taro, it's in relation to colocasia and elephant ear. But in Hawaiian culture, it is like our staple food. It is part of who we are, really. So haloa is it's kind of a long story, but I'm going to shorten it. So Wakea and Ho'ohokulani had a child, and these were our 2 gods of ours, 2 like head honcho gods. And their baby was a stillborn. And so they buried it. And they had a second son. And he was also named Hale. And growing from the stillborn was the taro plant. And the second born, Haloa, is like, we are descended from him. Like, he is one of the first men, and then we all came from him. And so the stillborn Haloa is our brother. And there are many similarities, and it kind of just ties into, like, we are it and it is us. And we need to realize that, and we need to respect that. And just really comes from your soul. So the kalo plant, we take the corm and we make poi. So you mash it up, you boil it and you mash it up, and you add water, and it becomes this thick purple paste, and it's super starchy, and that's what sustains us, and we still eat it today. The corm is also called oha, which might sound familiar from Lilo and Stitch, ohana. Just again, bringing around that family aspect, that this is part of us and we are part of it. I put some other phrases down here that I think are important. Just tying us to the land, keiki o ka'aina, children of the land. You'll usually say that when you're like referring to a big group. Same thing with maka'ainana, eyes of the land. We are here, we need to watch it, we need to take care of it. E malama pono i ka'aina, take good care of the earth. And like my son says, malama aina, and just taking care of the aina, the earth. Something else I wanted to talk about was the different parts of the kalo. So the stems can be boiled and eaten. The leaves are like a delicacy. If you guys have ever heard about laulau, very good. And everybody always wants like a bunch of leaves to be steamed because that's like the best part. Because laulau is just meat and taro leaves wrapped and then steamed. But the leaves are the best part. And the middle part right here, so you would kind of like a potato or a carrot, you would cut off the top and then replant that. And so that part is called the pico. And that kind of leads into this idea that I wanted to talk about. Malama pico means take care of people. So taro has a pico. Pico is another word for center. And people, we have 3 picos. You have the very top of your head, which connects you to your ancestors and the past generations. You have your belly button, which is like the most known pico. And that connects you to your mother and to living like who's living right now. And then you have the other part that connects you to future generations. And so it's malama pico is like take care of each part of you and ground yourself. Take care of your relationships, of your earth, your knowledge, and prepare this world for future generations to come back. And yeah, that's a very important part of Hawaiian culture, and I think a very important part for anyone to know. So more plants. So this is one of my favorite plants. It's called naupaka. So there are 2 varieties of naupaka. There is one that grows closer to the beach and one that grows upland, kind of on the skirts of forests. So the story goes is that Naupaka was a chief's daughter and Kauai was a handsome fisherman. And there are, I kind of Googled a lot of different stories because after years you hear, there's not like one story that I could find that I knew was the right one. But my favorite variation was that the goddess Pele, who is the goddess of the volcano, became jealous of their love and became, their love wasn't meant to be because they were in different classes. And so she was out to kill them. But then the other gods felt sorry for them and turned them into flowers instead. And so what happened was that Pele drove her lava through the middle of them as to separate the couple. And so that is why now you have one variety at the beach, one at the mountains, and they're separated by the lava fields. Yeah, so one of the varieties is up Malka, which means the mountains, and one of them is Makai, which means closer to the ocean. And Pele is one of our most famous goddesses. She is the goddess of the volcano, and she can be seen either as an old woman, sometimes walking down the street, or a beautiful young woman. Not saying that the old woman wasn't beautiful, but I think you know what I was trying to say, or as a white dog. And so there are still some stories sometimes of people being down at the volcano late at night and coming across her. Now, Paka is one of my favorite, I really like the half flower shape. Also, fun fact, if any of you have a Discover card that has the beach scene with the palm tree, there's also a shrub there, and that is now Paka. If you have that, now you know. So Ohia Lehua is my favorite flower. And one of the cool things about it is that so you see all the little pokey bits on the blossom? Each one of those little spikes is a different flower. And then they all are just grouped together. But each spike has the own little flower parts in it. And they come in 3 colors, the yellow, the red, and the orange. And the orange, yes, is made because the red and the yellow, the pollen got crossed. So I'm actually gonna read you my favorite version that I could find on this story, just because I think it's so eloquently worded. Yeah, and I didn't want to ruin it because it's one of my favorite stories. So, long ago, on the island of Hawaii, in the district of Puna, there lived a beautiful girl. Lehua was her name. She had a face as round and glowing as the moon, with eyes that glimmered like starlight, a back as straight as the Pali, the great sea cliffs, and hair that rippled down like a waterfall. Her heart was as kind and generous as her face and form were beautiful, and all who knew her loved her. She was especially cherished by the young warrior Ohia. His legs were thick and strong as forest trees, his chest as broad as the Pali, and his face was smiling as the sun. His heart was brave and kind as his face and form were strong, and all who knew him loved him. In the evening, Ohia would play his bamboo nose flute, sending the gentle melody to Lehua's ears. She would follow it to the forest to meet him, and there they would admire the beauty of the night. Sometimes they strolled the forest paths by moonlight, sometimes wandering down the shore to swim or surf and watch the phosphorescence of the tiny sea creatures as they awakened. Other times they wandered early in the morning, watching the red-orange sun gild the leaves of the forest trees, listening to the birdsong. As Ohia played his nose flute, Lehua gathered the foliage and blooms of the forest and fastened them into a lei. After garlanding Ohia and herself, she would playfully lead him back to the village, where they would greet their kupuna and give them the fragrant lei. Lehua's Amakua, her personal god, was the little red apapana. He loved to follow her into the forest and add its piping song to the melody of the flute. The little bird felt a great responsibility to care for the beautiful girl. One evening, as Ohia played his flute, before Lehua arrived at their meeting place, a beautiful young woman appeared. She had a face as round and glowing as the moon, with eyes that smoldered like fire, a back as straight as a Pali, and hair that rippled down like a waterfall. She approached Ohia, who greeted her politely and then continued to play his flute until Lehua arrived. The stranger watched the 2 wander away. Another evening, as Ohia again played his flute for Lehua, the stranger appeared. She seemed even more lovely than the first time. Ohia, come and be mine. Ohia was only polite and waited for his beloved Lehua. Again, the stranger watched as they went on their way. On another evening, yet again, the stranger appeared. She was even more beautiful than before, and the fire in her eyes glowed red. Again, Ohia was polite, yet only waited for Lehua. Come, Ohia, leave that girl and be mine, the stranger told him. I am sorry, but my heart belongs to Lehua, Ohia replied. Don't you know who I am? The stranger asked. You are the great goddess, the sacred woman, Pele, Ohia replied. I am not worthy of you. I am content with my mortal love, Lehua. As the two spoke, Lehua arrived. Ohia put his arms around her and held her close. Pele glared at the couple. The ground began to tremble. She stamped her feet and lava spurted forth, creating a fiery ring around the couple with a clear path to the goddess. Leave her behind and come to me and you will live, she told Ohia. I am sorry, O sacred one. Lehua is my very heart. If I were to leave her, she would die, and without her, I would die, Ohia replied. Then you shall die with her. The lava from the curtain of fire began to ooze towards the couple. Ohia only held Lehua more tightly. The lava came within inches of the pair. The little red Apapane darted around them, flitting at the lava as if he could fight it back with his wings. But the molten rock was inexorable in its approach. Ohia lifted Lehua up above the glowing lava. It reached his feet and began to cover them. He lifted Lehua higher. The Apapane darted high in the air and flew away, chirping as loudly as it could. The lava began to heap around Ohia's legs. He held his sweetheart even higher. By the time the Apapane returned, Lehua was sitting on Ohia's shoulders, caressing his face and weeping. The Apapane had tried to rally the forest spirits to rescue his charge and her sweetheart, but none of them had power enough to stop Pele. What they, the spirits of the forest, did have power over was the growth of the plants and forest creatures. Ohia and Lehua was so loved by the forest folk that the little spirits began to change the burning flesh of Lehua's legs to wood, of Ohia's legs to wood. His skin became bark, his arms became branches. Plucking Lehua from his shoulders, he held her high up in his branches away from the lava, which was crawling up his trunk. He held her aloft and felt his body stiffen. He saw her hair billowing in the hot wind that blew across the lava. Sparks carried by the wind landed in her hair, looked like red and gold blossoms. Suddenly, the girl was gone, replaced by the flame-colored flowers which bear her name and are held tenderly by the stalwart Ohia. Little Apapane continues to visit his beloved Lehua, and even today he can be seen sweetly kissing her as she rests in Ohia's leafy arms. Laymakers never pick these lovely blossoms on their way into the forest, only on the way out. If the lovers are separated as you enter the forest, Lehua grieves and droops. Her spirit is crushed. The spirits of the forest weep, bringing the rain, and laymakers may become lost. Instead, the laymaker travels to the forest, gives thanks to the beauty of the forest, and asks permission to pluck the blossoms. Then the sweet-natured and generous pair will offer the blossoms freely and keep the path above clear of trouble. So
that was great.
Thanks. Yeah. That's one of my favorite mo'olelos or stories. I really liked how this version of the writing touched on the lava. I don't know, just very visually. Ohia Lehua is the first thing to come up, the first plant that is able to break through the lava. And so I just really like how it incorporated that. And then also at the end, how it talked about the respect that people who are harvesting flowers and blossoms, when they walk into the forest, how you need to be so respectful and just thank, you know, the forest that you're there and thank them for letting you take what you need. So I also want to talk about May Day. May Day is Lay Day in Hawaii, and we have this holiday. If you're in school, you will basically do nothing the whole day except for participate in May Day. So we have a May Day court consisting of a princess and her escort for each island, and then you will have the queen and the king. And so each island has a pair, and they dress in the island's color as well as their plant. So they'll have leis made out of the associated color and plant. And each class usually will do either a chant or a dance. And so it's really just a whole day of celebrating Hawaiian culture, and everybody gets to learn a little bit. And I kind of think that that's why, because everybody has a hand in that from such a young age, that there's such community in the people who live in Hawaii. So I have a little game here. Feel free to unmute yourself for some discussion if you would like. Basically, I have some plants here, and I want you guys to guess whether they are native, a canoe plant, or an exotic plant, and then I will give you the results after. So contestant number 1.
You could also put it in the chat if you want.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Is it exotic?
No.
Canoe?
It's a coconut tree. So new.
Canoe.
It's a canoe plant. So a lot of people think it is native because coconuts float and they have that hard outer shell and the husk around it to protect it from salt water. But we are so isolated from any other thing that could have coconuts that I don't think it could last the at least 3 months voyage there without becoming contaminated by the salt. Niu is also very important in Hawaiian culture. They used every single part of the tree. They would use the trunk for canoe casts to hang the masts. Of course, you eat the meat of the coconut, like my favorite thing. They would use the shell as utensils and tools. The husk they would peel apart and braid for rope. The fronds at the top they would use for their hales or their houses, as well as for mats to sit on. One other thing I like to mention is that young coconut, so coconut that has germinated and it has like, I don't know, maybe a foot or 2 of growth on it, are a delicacy and people love it. On the inside, instead of having meat like you see in the picture, it's all foamy and just like soft and tender, and it's delicious. Next up, does anybody know what this flower is called?
Plumeria.
Woo!
Plumeria.
What do you think? From there or not?
Definitely not native.
Ooh, yeah, you're right.
No.
It has kind of been naturalized, so it's there. It doesn't really cause anyone problems. It's not super aggressive, and we make it into leis a lot. It's like culturally accepted, and it smells beautiful. We would call it our McDonald's tree because it just always has blooms, and you'll just be leaving, from your yard and just pick one out your window of the car and put it in your hair.
Exotic?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Yes.
I have a very hard time with pineapple because everybody thinks that pineapples are from Hawaii, and I can't. They also think that they grow on trees, which they don't. They grow on like little spiky bushes.
Bromeliads.
Like right here. Yeah. So I don't know. They're kind of cute. But the thing that bothers me about pineapples is that the pineapple plantations didn't treat the local people very well. They decimated our soils. They are a large part about why Hawaii became a state at the end. And so I just don't like associating with pineapples. Also, you can eat whatever you want on your pizza as long as you don't call it Hawaiian. Anybody know what this guy is? So many crickets. This is A'ali'i. If you remember earlier, I kept mentioning the Ali'i, who are the chiefs. And so this was a sign of royalty. You can see, I believe this is a headdress at the bottom right that you wear here. I don't know what this part is called, but you kind of just wear it above your ears, around your forehead. And yeah, it was like reserved for royalty. If you're in a restored forest, you can hear these rub against each other. Like I don't know how to describe it, but it's a very unique sound that I just hear when I'm in the forest at home. They're very often used in restoration. That's probably why I've heard it so much, is we used to plant them a lot.
Ginger.
Thoughts?
Ginger. It's ginger. Hedikium.
This is Kahili ginger or Himalayan ginger.
Yep.
Super invasive. A problem that I have with this plant is that it has a Hawaiian name, and that causes a lot of confusion because you see a Hawaiian name, you know that it's Hawaiian, and you assume it belongs here. But really, this plant grows so fast and it's so hard to get rid of. And if you've ever cleared it from an area, it can grow bigger than me and just shade out all of the natives coming through. And you go out and you chop it all down, you spray your herbicide, and it's like the forest floor drops. And you just realize how much mass this invasive species was taking up. And it's kind of sad, but it's super cool to be able to go back a year later in the same spot and see all of the little native trees popping up and the native ferns, and it's just very rewarding. But yeah, I have a bone to pick with this guy. I already mentioned this before, but Hawaii has ideal growing conditions. All of these plants at the top are invasive, extremely, extremely invasive. And they take advantage of the ideal growing conditions. They have profuse seed dispersal, and they don't have their predators. Like we talked about before, they are just here and they're taking up as much space. They're out competing our native plants, and that has effects on the ecosystem. From left to right, it is fountain grass, guava, which tastes great, but it's just so bad. Rauwolfia vomitoria, which is an invasive tree that in the last decade has really made an impact on my island. And I did a research project, or I helped a doctor student do his research on this plant. And then there's banana polka, which is a vine that strangles any and everything. So like I talked about before, there are a lot of nonprofits and different groups that are doing this work. I was lucky enough to be a part of it. My friend Makana and I are building a sediment dam, which is kind of a taco of rocks. And then it's built in a ravine. So when it rains, all the sediment is caught on it, and then we can go back and replant it. I'm doing transplants. This is at our DNR nursery for native plants. And there's just a lot of really good work going on, and there's hope. Even though I talk a lot about invasive plants, there's hope and there's people willing to do the work. Some other interesting Hawaii drama I wanted to mention was the monarchy and the overthrow. Queen Liliuokalani was locked away, and she did not call on a militia because she believed that the president of the US would know that she had been wronged and do it right, and that didn't happen. And Hawaii was kind of pushed into being a state because of the pineapple and sugarcane industry. And now tourism is our main economic industry. Hawaii in World War II, if you don't know, yesterday was Pearl Harbor Day. Very big. Hawaii was not even a state yet. We were a territory wrongfully taken. During World War II, Kaho'olawe, which is not a city, island, was completely decimated. It was a bomb training ground. It was a target site, and it's just completely eroded. There are no inhabitants. The only way that you can go to Kaho'olawe is if you are doing restoration or if you are doing a cultural practice. One of my goals in life is to be able to do restoration work at Kaho'olawe. Hopefully one day. King Kamehameha is also very important. He was prophesized to end over 100 years of fighting and unite all of the islands together. And him and his lineage then continued the monarchy until it was overturned. There are 2 statues of him on Big Island, and every year there's a parade for him, and it's just really cool to go and see the statues and see the town where he was from. Hawaiian culture is alive and well. There's been a huge revival in the past couple decades. Hokulea sailed around the world without the aid of modern instruments. Super cool. They were followed by like a security boat to make sure that they were okay, but they did not talk to them. They just sailed. We had navigators, you know, just like the olden days when they went all the way around the world. And it's just so exciting. I don't want to get political, but a big debate right now is the TMT, the 30-meter telescope that was planned to be built on Mauna Kea, which is, if you don't know, Mauna Kea is one of the best places to build a telescope because the sky is so clear, there's not light pollution, and it's high. And the problem is that Mauna Kea is a very sacred place, and there are already a lot of several telescopes up there. And so there's a huge protest that's been going on for years to not build it. And I have friends and family who have been up there for weeks on end, for months on end. I have one friend who's been up there for like almost 2 years, just protesting this happening. So that's important. And there's been a lot of people supporting us from different other indigenous groups, and The Rock and Jason Momoa were even up there at some point. And then something else super cool is that Hawaii has, like, each school that I've been to has a garden. And I think that played a big role in where I am now and how I relate to the earth and how I know how to provide for myself. And so Hawaii has done a great job at being hands-on and teaching people where their food comes from. That's kind of the end. I went a little long, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I will let me know what questions there were.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that.
It was a little rambly, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. All right, I guess if you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask in a civilized way, or I can call on people too. I'm good at that. But
I enjoy whoever wrote at Dole.
yeah. Okay, let me see. All right. Okay, just you can put a hand up if you want, and I'll call on you, or you can just unmute yourself. Alex, did you have a question? I saw your hand up before.
I was clapping, but I was asking earlier in the chat. One of the plants, I thought I recognized the genus. It was I'm gonna murder the Hawaiian name. I'm sorry. Ui Alua. Did I say that right? I'm sorry. Is that a Metrocedrus? Is that the genus?
Oh, the lehua.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it's I believe that's the one.
The one you told the beautiful story for. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I ask?
Yeah, just speak. There's a lot of people in
Okay.
here.
Hi, I'm Cindy Brown. You can see from my background where I am in Colorado. And I know KaMele from when she was a student. She worked in my lab at Colorado State University. So it's great to hear what she's doing now and about this wonderful cultural connection. Yeah, so my question is, I'm an ecologist, a plant ecologist. So I'm wondering, as an ecologist, like what you did mention that let's see if I can, the same plant we were just talking about.
The Ohia lehua.
Ohia lehua. That plant, you said it was often the first one to come in to start to grow on lava flows. So yeah. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the natural succession of plants after, primary succession, right? With after lava flow, where there's like no plants, nothing's grown, in that lava before, what's the natural progression and succession of plants in Hawaii?
Yeah, so Ohia lehua is a really cool species, and that it has a lot of variety in the habitats that it can live in. So you'll find it at a fresh lava, maybe not like simmering fresh, but it's after it cools down, it's like the first thing to come up, and then it's also like the base of old growth forests up in the mountains. So it can live in a variety of different climates and different conditions, as well as be very versatile in how it looks. And so there are even like vine types, not necessarily a difference. Yeah, anyway, it has just different bodies. So basically, the island rises, it's lava, and it's just lava. It gets big enough, it gets seeds, that comes in. The ohia came in, and so that's how, the island just keeps growing, and the ohia that colonized that area, that lava is still there and still growing and still reproducing. Nowadays, if you were to watch a certain area, often it's a lava flow comes in, things will start to grow there, and then a lava flow comes in. Older trees, older ohias can often stay in the lava or withstand a light flow. But for the most part, it's just wiped out and wiped out again. And so you can't see it if you're sitting there watching it over a couple decades. In order for you to really see what happens, you have to wait until the lava flow, till tectonic plate moves, and then the lava flow will start coming at a different place. And then the old lava, all the seeds and stuff that are in there will then be able to come up and break down that lava and make rich soil. Did that answer what you were trying to say, Cindy, or trying to ask?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, okay. So yeah, that's good. I mean, so what would come in? What would come in next after that?
There are a lot of um, like shrubby. The a'ali'i, like the one that I showed you, it was like a hot bush. It likes very acidic soils, so it's kind of shrubby things that are able to really get their roots in all the little cracks of the lava. I don't know if you guys know this, but lava expands, or at least Hawaiian lava does. So it will come through and cover the land. And then once friction becomes too much for it, it stops and then it dries. And as it dries, it expands. So it can expand up to 10 times its original thickness. And so it's very airy. And that's why we will use lava rock in cooking and different things like that, because it's super airy and catches things. But my point is that kind of shrubby things that like acidity can really dig their roots and break all that up to become good soil for the other plants to be able to come in.
Cool. Are any of them nitrogen fixers?
Yes. Oh, there's one. Is it Kauai? There's one specific tree that is like the that is like the standard nitrogen fixer for Hawaiian forests. I can't think of which one it is right now, but I remember that was a big thing when they learned that it could do that. I'll have to get back to you, Cindy.
That's okay. Just curious. Thank you. That's great. Thanks a lot, KaMele. Thanks for your presentation. It was awesome.
Thanks for questions.
Oh my God, Andy. I have a question as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you've been a part of a lot of different projects, and you also mentioned some of like your goals for projects in the future or projects that you'd like to be a part of. If you could do anything like your dream project, what would you do?
So my dream job would be to go back and work for the Kohala Watershed Partnership, which was the place I had mentioned that I had done an internship for 3 summers, and do my friend's old job, actually. So she was like my manager, and she had like the coolest job. I thought she did she like managed the field work. So there was a field crew that went out and they got different grants from different places to go do research and go actually do removals and eradications. So that was part of her job. And then she also put together like 2 or 3 summer camps each summer to get keiki and kids out there to experience nature and teach them. We would take them up to the Hawaiian bog forests and down to the coral reefs and just teach them about the world around us. And she also did a lot of outreach and just talking to different people and putting together talks. And she just did so much things to teach people about the land and about Hawaiian culture. And she was also on the ground in her boots organizing all this research. And so that would probably be like my dream job. I kind of have a finger in everything. But I would love to go home and do that kind of work. Also, like I mentioned, going to Colorado. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that'd be awesome to be part of education. Sorry, what did you say?
I don't remember.
I have a question kind of not a little bit related to that, is that with when you first showed some of the first slides where you showed how they used to do the farming from the mountains to the sea, is that kind of farming being brought back at all in any way? You said there's work being done for more sustainable, self-sustainable culture, food culture in Hawaii right now instead of importing things. Are they modeling anything on the old agricultural methods that you know of?
So it gets hard, right? When you're talking about whole watersheds or whole ahupua'as, it's like mostly the fact that people own land now is very hard to work amongst each other with that. The valley next to my house, Waipio Valley, if you've ever been to Big Island, you've probably been to the lookout to look into the valley, is very close, I think. It's Hawaiian homestead land, so only people of Hawaiian descent can own land there, and they don't even own it, they like rent it out for a certain amount of years. There's a lot of rules to it. But that's like, there's kalo patches, and it's the whole valley, so it's like the picture I showed you where it's from the forest all the way out, and it's a tourist destination too, so that's kind of hard. But whenever I've gone down there, it's been great. You like get in the mud and you harvest your taro, and you can go rinse off in the river afterwards. And my dad has some friends down there, and they're always sharing food, sharing their crop with each other, and yeah, but in general, Hawaii farming is definitely more organic than anywhere else I've seen. And it has the ability to be that year-round growing season really makes it worthwhile. I know that organic farmers here have a hard time like making their costs make sense. Everything in Hawaii costs more, but we have the benefit of having tourists, and so the tourists are willing to kind of pay the pretty penny for the organic products. At our farmers markets, we also have at our farmers markets, you are able to use your EBT or your food stamps, and so people can get fresher and healthier food, because yeah, the locals aren't usually doing too well most of the time. My high school was 98% on like the free lunch program. So different benefits like that are really helpful to the local people.
I have a couple other questions if no one has any, but jump in before me if anybody has a question.
I don't have a question so much as that was awesome. Thank you so much. And I've heard that New Jersey has more native orchids than Hawaii. And when I think of Hawaii, I often think of orchids. But I've heard that before. Are there native Hawaiian orchids?
There are 3. Orchids are not really common in Hawaii. They're commonly grown, again, because of our year-round growing season. But as far as native, I feel like orchids are pretty finicky, so I can't imagine that they did really well being transported here to adapt.
Okay, there are a couple questions in the chat that I'm going to say.
Yeah.
This is from Jared, and he says he's an environmental educator at an estuary research institute. You talked about exotic plants not having any natural predators. What type of herbivorous animals do you have on the islands?
Ooh, these are some fun facts that I spew out all the time. Hawaii has no native, okay, that's a lie. Hawaii has one native mammal, and it is a bat. It is a tiny, cute little bat. It's like that big. Because how else was it gonna get there is really the question. But now we have a bunch of invasive species. Some of the islands have deer. My island does not have deer, but the island my dad grew up on, Molokai, he grew up hunting deer. Our biggest problem are pigs. Right now, I grew up hunting boars, but they cause a huge problem. They will eat our native ferns, and the ferns have like little divots in them that then breed mosquitoes. The mosquitoes kill our native birds. What else? We have, because of all the ships that would come in, especially during colonization, all the rats were an issue. And then some person decided that it was a good idea that, hey, we have this rat problem, let's bring in mongoose, and then that'll solve it. But then nobody thought, hey, one of these is nocturnal. And so now we have a rat and a mongoose problem, and they always eat my sister's chickens, and it's very upsetting. Yeah, as far as other things that like run around in the wild, there's not all that much. We do have like a lot of farm animals that have been brought in. My island, Parker Ranch. My island has Parker Ranch, which is in the top like 5 ranches in the world. We typically do calf breeding, and then we will ship the calves to the mainland to be finished because we just don't have the area for it. But we do have Hawaiian cowboys, and those are very fun. So you should Google it. They're pretty fun to see all the saddles, and the culture is really different than any other cowboys, I think. But yeah, we don't have any native herbivores or carnivores, really, just the bat.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is my question. Pollinators, bees, birds, what, I know this sounds like kind of a silly question because they're probably similar to what's here, but are there any ones that stand out to you as being different from here? I'm sure there's different kinds of birds, like the one that was following our friend around the app.
I wish the camera's too far away, but I have this picture of Hawaii's endemic birds. This one's my favorite. Sorry, that was a weird moment. So pollinators are birds, definitely, or pollinators. Most things that are native are also probably mostly wind pollinated because we don't have mammals, or like there was nothing here in order to pollinate them besides the wind. So for a really long time. Now, of course, we have most things, bees, butterflies. The Kamehameha butterfly is a relative of the monarch butterfly, which is pretty cool, but it really, you can't really tell it from a monarch butterfly. But nothing super exotic. We have the happy face spider. Have you heard about that?
I have
I
not.
can't see you. I don't know why I'm like looking.
I haven't heard about it. Nope.
So I don't have anything to show you. Wait, here. It's super cute. It is native. So in 4th grade, every 4th grader goes down and stays the night at Volcanoes National Park on Big Island. And one of the funnest things that we did was we went and looked for heavy face spiders. And I think I went twice and I never found one because they're tiny. Really hard to find. But when I was in high school working at the internship, I had taken my group, I think I had like 6 kids I was in charge of, 6 middle schoolers, and we were just like hiding out in the native Hawaiian forests, and we were just like checking out some leaves, and I found one, and I was so excited. And you know, this 6th grade girls were not as excited as I was, but this is one of my favorite memories ever. But this is what they look like. Aren't they cute?
Yes, they are. I like them. Somebody else asked a question, are macadamia nuts native?
No, but they are delicious. My sister's actually just cracked and sent me a bag. I got it in the mail today. Macadamia nuts are actually grown in more acidic soil down south. I grew up with a probably like 40-foot macadamia nut tree, and I remember I would sit with a hammer for like hours and just crack macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts have the hardest shell in the world. Just so you know, fun fact.
All right.
I had a question. If there's, I don't want to keep anyone, but I was really interested in the story that you told of folks coming to the forest to collect flowers to make leis. And I was just wondering if in that kind of world, if there are like certain flowers that are used for like certain events or things like that. And there's like, you know, specific uses, and like you mentioned Lay Day as well. And I was just wondering if there are any particular plants that are really unique.
Yeah, I am not an expert in that, but different flowers do mean different things. Maile is a vine that has a pretty little white flower, and it's used for like graduations or weddings. It's used as a sign that you achieved something. It's a sign of honor. There are a lot of not stereotypes, a lot of what is the word where you like do something because you think something's bad gonna happen?
Superstition.
Superstitions, thank you. Kind of a lot of superstitious kind of rules about leis. So if you can't, it's like so rude if you take a lei off that you were given. It's also very rude if you take a lei from somebody instead of letting them put it on you. Pregnant women cannot wear a circle lei. They need to wear just a lei. It just drapes down. It just doesn't connect down here. Some people say that it will strangle the baby because it's a loop. Yeah, tea leaf is a very common lei to make. It's easy. It's again one of those things that matches with a bunch of different flowers, and it is again a sign of honor. Haku is what it's called, the headdress that you'll see hula dancers wearing, or anyone really could wear a haku, but that has a different meaning than giving somebody a lei. It's a little more royal. But yeah, I think that's kind of all I really know about it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Someone in the chat, this is not really on the topic of horticulture necessarily, but asked if there was a good website on the history of Hawaii or a good source on the history of Hawaii. And if there is, you can put it in the chat, or you can, if you think about it, you can send me some resources, KaMele. And this is Kate speaking, by the way. And then I can send it out to, I can list it in the Facebook event and send it out to people. But
yeah, if I can find some online resources, I did have a pile of books here I was going to suggest to people. These are all mostly folktale and plant books, but there are a lot of Hawaiian history books. I'm sure you can find a lot not really my forte of what I wanted to look up, but I have a couple of suggestions here. This one is by Vivian Thompson. It's called Hawaiian Myths of Earth, Sea, and Sky. I found it's pretty short. So when I was reading it, I was just doing like a story a night. I also have Folk Tales of Hawaii, which is a collection by Mary Pukui. And then Plants in Hawaiian Culture. This is definitely more nonfiction, a little harder to read, but interesting nonetheless. And then this was made by the Nature Conservancy. I've had a copy in every house that I've lived in. It's called The Last Stand, The Vanishing Hawaiian Forests, and it was put out by the Nature Conservancy. And I've just found it over and over again online, and it has some really cool information. But yeah, I can write all of these and have Kate post it on the Facebook. So if anybody's interested.
That would be great, I think. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? I was completely fascinated by the story of course, I can't know their names, of the and Pele, how she was trying to intervene with their love and the tree and the blossom. That was just great. And the picture that you had with it was amazing. I loved that. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, there are just so many stories that are really cool. A lot of them have to do with love and love lost. But I was trying to pick the ones that related to plants, and there are a lot, but those are three of my favorite ones.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was wondering, you mentioned a few like conservation organizations, and something that I would maybe like to see that maybe you could post on the Facebook group is just more of those, or just a few that are your like personal favorites, and perhaps a way to donate or support those groups.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. I will send those as well to Kate. My favorite is the Kohala Center, and they do great work. I actually got several scholarships for school from them, as well as different scholarships to attend different college programs in high school. There's a couple of people here actually that I met at those. But I really like them. I actually, how on Facebook, how you can do for your birthday, like a donation event. I did that for the Kohala Center my last birthday, and they responded to me on Facebook, and it was really nice. But yeah, I will send along that information. Thank you for asking.
That's a great idea. We can definitely gather some of these resources together and put them out as a list. That's not a problem at all. Okay. Unless there's anything else, I'm going to say a huge thank you, because that was really good. And thank you for kicking off our series, jumping right in.
Yeah, and if you do, I'm so excited about these postcards. So if you could please send her your address, I really am excited to send them out.
Yeah, and if you just put your email in the chat, that's fine too. I will email you and get your address that way. Either way, whatever works best for you. And we'll get you your souvenir from Hawaii and from KaMele. It's made by her, designed by her. Okay, so thank you so much. And please, I would love it if you guys would all follow us and join us for the next one in January. We're going to try to do these once a month. We have them through March right now, and we're going to try to see if we can keep adding on different ones, different perspectives. And I think that's it. Thank you so much, KaMele.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate your attention.
Yeah, Stay warm and stay well. I'm going to stay on to get all these addresses down.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Hi.
everybody. Thanks. See you later.
Bye.
Thank you. If anyone wants to stay on and talk for a couple minutes, you're more than welcome while I do this.
I'll hang out.
Yeah. That was really good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to me because just thinking about the folklore, and the stories about plants coming from these tales. And I feel like in the United States or European, I guess, folklore, we have more things about animals that I know of, folk tales and folklores, than about plant creation that I personally know, because I work with kids and everything. So we read folk tales and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't always encounter a lot of plant related ones, but more of the animal things, like how the chipmunk got his stripes, or,
Yeah.
why does the, I don't know, things like that. So like, why does the, cat say meow, or, things like that, but not a lot of plant ones. So I'm gonna have to keep my eye out for that. I mean, we have, tales of like, maybe some myths and things, but not necessarily creation stories about plants.
Yeah.
Cool. But all right, I'm gonna just make sure I get these people down that I just told everyone to write. Let's see. Thank you so much for being the first victim.
No, it was fun. I was pretty nervous, but
No, you did great. I loved it.
and we just moved, so it's been in a box for a long time.
Wow. So do you have any plans to get back to Hawaii anytime soon that you know of, or to live, or is it just, I mean, no one's really going anywhere right now, I guess, but.
Yeah, I am actually going home for Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't been home in like 2 years.
Oh, wow. That's great. And your family still all lives there?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah, I'm the eldest of 4, and so I haven't seen my sisters in a really long time. My youngest is 11.
Wow.
Yeah, so I just feel like I've missed so much because I've been away. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And where is your boyfriend originally from? Chicago?
Yeah, he's from Chicago.
I'm sorry, I'm being nosy. I'm trying to also write.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Yeah. And you can feel free to go if you want. It's okay.
It's funny reading these in like post talk.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Julie said, wow, that's a fun fact. And I don't know which fun fact I said that she's referring to.
Yeah. I don't know. Who knows?
Do these chats get saved anywhere?
You know what? The recording, which I can probably stop recording right now, actually.